Hey guys, YD Apps here. One thing I've been thinking a lot about lately is the idea of the black pill and why so many men my age are falling for it. And not just men, but just kids in general. I think I've seen like several younger friends and family that I know that have brought up the black pill. And I'm just like, dude, you're in middle school or you're in high school. Like, you should not be thinking and worrying about that stuff. And so it saddens me to see you know, but I figured I would make this video kind of address to that era and to that subject into the topic of the black pill and just kind of break it down and, share some things that have worked for me to avoid it and to not take it. And so I hope that one of you guys can find something to take from this video. So let's just get right into it. So if you don't know what the black pill is, I do envy you just a little bit. But essentially, the black pill is a mindset that everything is just kind of pointless and that nothing has meaning, that we've already lost, nothing really matters, there is no meaning to anything. That's kind of the idea of the black pill. It ties pretty closely into a philosophy called nihilism, which is the idea that life doesn't really have any inherent purpose or value, and that nothing you do really matters, as far as I understand it. And I think that's a big reason this mindset is getting so popular. It's just the environment that we find ourselves in right now. We have constant access to information, and that's something I want to talk about for just a second here. Our brains were not meant to have the kind of access to constant information that we do now. On your phone, you have access to things happening all around the world, all at once, kind of like an everything, everywhere, all at once type deal. And our brains were never meant to handle that kind of system information overload. Our brains aren't wired to do that. And I think that that's a really big issue is we weren't meant to have access to all information. And now that we live in the digital age where we do, it gets to the point where you can get overloaded and almost just shut down. I mean, I, for a while, shut down because I just was so overwhelmed by just everything going on. Things all the way across the world, all the way across the country, things in my own hometown. Like, it's just such an information overload that our brains, I think, just don't know what to do with it. And I think that is one of the big issues right now is just the constant input of information and the relatively little output that people have. Like, how often do you sit on your phone and just watch a video like this or something else, or watch bad news, or go through Reddit posts, or go through 4chan, or go through literally any kind of online space, and you just consume, and you never put out. Like, even if you just journal, or you just write something down, like, all the input that you have coming in, make sure you're giving some kind of output just as a creative way to function and to put your own ideas and your own thoughts out there. That's part of the big reason I started this channel and why I want to keep making videos and why I want to talk about things that interest me, is because I want to put out more than I consume, or at least try and counteract the amount that I'm consuming. And I think that another big part of that too, along with that, is the amount of fake views that we have, or the fake versions of people's lives that are posted on social media. And I know that, like, that's a pretty basic and a pretty boomer-esque type. Like, you hear that a lot, is what I'm trying to say. Like, oh, you'll never see the sleepless nights or the imperfection. It's like, you really won't. Like, once you start really thinking about it, like, you really don't see the hard times. And that's one of the reasons I got rid of social media, is because all I was seeing was people's perfect outings, or perfect nights out, or their perfect events. And I was like, but I know this person personally, and I know what they were going through right before this. And so to me, I knew that it was fake, with someone I knew. So with other people, I was like, well, how do I know that they're not being fake? And that was another thing that I did to mitigate my own black pill in my own personal life, was I have tried to create things, and I have completely and very sporadically cut down on the amount of things I'm consuming, and I deleted social media for it. You're seeing the best versions of their lives nonstop all the time. Even the bad portions that you see of their life, it's still filtered and edited to give you the best, outcome story and all that other stuff. And over time, that starts to mess with your head, and you start comparing yourself to others, and you just never feel like you're doing good enough, and you never feel like you're where you need to be. And to be honest, it's there's that quote: don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20," and that's really the biggest lesson I took from a lot of that. Is that when you start feeling like you're behind and you're not enough, but you forget that they have years on you, in this, space of, YouTube making videos, just for, using myself as an example, right? There are guys that have thousands and thousands of views and all this other stuff. And they've also been doing it for, a long time now, right? And if I start comparing myself to them, it just doesn't do anything for me. The Bible tells us that, whatever you want to believe about the Bible, right? It's like, Galatians 6:4, but let everyone prove his own work, and so he shall have glory in himself only, and not in another. For everyone shall bear his own burden. And I think that's just timeless wisdom in and of itself. Is just don't compare yourself to others. Find value in the work that you do and that you put out. And if you want to improve, definitely improve on that. We're called to try and be better, to become better people, to be better in society, and there is a righteous jealousy or a righteous envy to be better, right? But the more that you compare yourself to others and their selected highlight reel, the more you realize that you're not going to be good enough, or this, that, or the other, and you start to take that black pill, which you should never do, hence the title of this video. And you start to take it and you're just like, oh my goodness, I can't, all these negative things are starting to affect me, and that's not what you're supposed to do. And so that would be something: is delete social media, or as much as you can. I know that we live in an interesting day and age now where some people, it's their job and all this other stuff, but just stop comparing yourself to others realistically, and don't feel bogged and weighed down by the constant stream of information that we have at our fingertips. It's not good to just sit around all day. Go touch grass, go be nice, go hold the door open for somebody, go smile at someone. You know what I mean? Like, being kind is literally free. Being kind to yourself is free. Being kind to others is free. I'm not saying go and buy someone's groceries or go buy someone's gas, or, some Mr. Beast type thing. But like, you need to just open the door, smile at someone, compliment somebody, find the good that is in the day to day life. I understand that the world is a scary place, but if you can just find the joys of living life, and that's one of the things that Elisha Long said in one of his recent videos. He was like, rediscover the enchantment of life, rediscover the things that, enchanted you as a child and as a young adult. For me, that's been getting back into reading. I used to love fantasy books, and so I've been reading fantasy books. I want to expand my palette over time and get more into the more historical and some of the more, better understanding, to have a better understanding of my world. But right now, it's like I've been reading fantasy books that I read back in middle school, and it reignited something in me that I hadn't felt in a long time. Um, but I'm not gonna lie either. It is hard not to black pill sometimes. I mean, I think that a big thing that you have to do to not black pill is acknowledge that it's real. I'm not saying the black pill isn't real and that, everything's going to be okay. Like, I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to hold your hand and say that it's all going to be okay. Um, it acknowledge that it's real. The first step is to acknowledge that it is a real thing, and it can drown you, and you can overdose very, very easily on the black pill. And, you know, I mean, speaking from personal experience, I tried to off myself when I was in high school. I really struggled with mental health for a long time. And I know that that is a controversial point, kind of moving into this new era of, hard times create tough men create easy times, but I really struggled in high school for a long time with a lot of this stuff. And so I understand that sometimes you take it and it just completely destroys your entire way of life. I ended up in the mental hospital for it, for about a week or so. I was pulled away from my friends and my family for a week. And they knew where I was, but it was tough. I'm not gonna pretend like it wasn't. And I've since gotten better, and maybe I'll do a video about that later. But it's one of these things where acknowledge that it's real, and every now and again, it's okay to say, you know what, life is pretty tough. Acknowledge, sit with it for a second. Don't swim in it. Don't overdo it, but say, it's okay. Things are tough right now, but this is what I'm called to do. I'm called to be better, and I'm called to rise above this. And the real white pill in all of this, to be honest with you, is that it's not going to ever be easy for us. We are living in the hard times that create tough men and strong men. That's where we're at right now in society. And we could do a whole video on that, and maybe I will. I kind of just make these as I find things and discover things to talk about that interest me. But we're in that time where, your choices do matter. If not for you, then for your children. And if not for your children, then your grandchildren. And if not for anybody else, at least do it for you. And I know I said that and I'm kind of rambling, but I don't want to edit this a whole lot. But do it for you. There is a very real chance that the fruits of our labor that we are sowing right now, we won't see until we're 80 or 90 years old, if ever. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. That's what we're doing. We're in an era of our lifetime where we are planting the fruit and we are planting the trees for our children and grandchildren to have a tree house. And that is where we're at. Step up and be the person that you have been called to be and that you need to be for your children, for your grandchildren, for society, for your country. I hope that you love your country. The blood and sacrifice that has gone into this country to secede from the British Empire, to draft the Constitution, all the things that our country has done, all the innovation that has come out from our country. Lewis and Clark, man, I feel like they're not talked about enough, and maybe I'll do a video on them. Dude, they fucking awesome, dude. And you're gonna sit here and black pill and say, "Oh, well, I just don't know what to do." I understand that it's hard. I understand. I get it. I feel you. I sympathize with you. I pray for you. I understand. But you have to dig down and pick yourself up and say, you know what, this is tough. Everyone else knows it's tough, but this is what we have to do. And that's what you're called to do. And it is the hard times. That's the bare reality. That's the reality. Is once you accept that as the reality, everything else becomes easier. Once you say, you know what, it's going to be hard, but I want to do it. I need to do this. Your life is going to become so much better. So that would be my first piece of advice: is accept and understand that it is real. Don't hide from the black pill. Don't pretend that it doesn't exist, because it is real. It's very dangerous. And you all know someone, or you are that person, that when you think of the black pill and when you think of, the chronically, no one wants to be around this person. Like you have someone, I know you do. And maybe send this to them. I don't know. Whatever you think, help them out, try and help them, but don't let them drag you down with them. And I guess, towards the end of this, I'm kind of just rambling now, but there's a lot of negativity out there. I understand. I get it. But it doesn't mean that you have to let it define you and you don't have to let it shape how you see everything. Avoid the black pill, please. I'm begging you. Do not spiral into black pill overdose. I promise you, there is nothing good that comes out of it. There is nothing good. All right. I know I almost lost my life because of it. All right. So I'm pleading with you, do not overdose on it and take it. And do not let it become a destroyer and a habit. Do not, please. Please, please, please do not. And that is pretty much the video. Those are my thoughts on it. And that's my thoughts. Reject the black pill, my friend. Reject the black pill. Say no. You know, do not, do not black pill. We are done black pilling. That is what they want you to do. They want you to be defenseless. They want you to be hopeless so they can come in and take all your rights and say, we'll make it easier for you. You know, and you all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say it, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. They will come in, they will say, "Oh my goodness, look at you. You're so sad. Let me make things easier for you." What was it that Nixon or Reagan said? The words you don't want to hear, "I'm from the government. I'm here to help." Right? Don't rely on that. Do not let them come in and take away your rights to let you feel happy. Stick it to them. And if that's the only thing you can do to get out of it is to just say, I'm simply doing this in defiance and I will not black pill in defiance, that's wonderful. That's great. Do that. And those are my thoughts on it. And that's pretty much it. If you like this video, be sure to click the like button, leave a comment, send this to someone who may need it. I've never really been good with these, so I hope that I'm getting better. I hope the mic is a little bit better. I'm working on getting another mic. Comment below anything that you'd like to see in the future, any content subjects, whatever. Let me know. I want to hear from the people that have watched my videos. And speaking of, thank you, thank you, thank you to all the viewers on the last two videos. I got more than 100 views on each video. I did not think that was going to be possible my first time posting. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I hope that I continue to be worthy of your views. Until then, have another one. God bless, and never black pill. Never black pill.